Well, finally, I've made it down to the river. Absolutely unheard of, but I've missed the first 2 weeks of the river fishing season, which I can't remember when that was last the case. Work's just been an absolute bar steward recently, and I've just not had a chance to get out and wet a line and get that first barbel of the year caught. But yeah, I've got some time today. It's right at the back end of June now, and yeah, missed pretty much 2 weeks of it, but it is what it is. Now, it's not ideal today. The only time I've got is from about mid-morning through to mid to late afternoon, so I'm not going to be fishing at the most opportune sort of time of the day as such. During the summer, you'd want to be out at dawn and dusk ideally, so yeah, but it is what it is. It is some fishing time, so I'm going to snatch it whilst I can get it. So I'm going to get onto one of the free sections in the gorges area of the Severn, in between Buildwas, Ironbridge, Coalport, and down to the Apley Estate, that sort of area there. There's quite a few free sections here that aren't controlled by clubs, so come and check this area out and explore it a little bit, because there are some really nice areas to fish, and yeah, it's a really picturesque setting as well. So yeah, without further ado, I'm itching to get started, so let's get the gear, get ourselves down to the riverbank and get on the case to catch that first barbel of the season. Well, it's decision time. We've got to pick a peg. As you can see, it's really shallow on the inside here, but what I am looking for is a combination of a little bit of depth and some flow. And a bit further out here, it's a lot darker, and it looks like there's a good few feet of depth there, and I can see the surface movement. The water is pushing through a little bit. What I don't want is shallow, fast-paced rapids, because in the middle of the day, when the light levels are like what they are, I don't think the fish like the shallow water. They're more likely to be there at dawn or dusk time, so I'll save them for another time. I just want a little bit of deep water in the swim that I'm going to choose to target. There's 3 or 4 pegs up this bank here, so I'm just going to go check them all out quickly. We'll get one picked, and then we'll get started from there. Well, here's a look out over the swim that I'm going to start the session in. Lovely bit of the Severn, this. We've got lots of room to spread a couple of rods out. Birds are singing in the background. We've got a lovely backdrop to watch the tips. I'll show you in a second where I'm targeted and why. But that's a quick look out over the swim. Whoa, something's just topped there. I wasn't expecting that. Jeez, that caught me off guard, that did. Well, that's a good sign in itself. Not sure what that was, but there's 1 or 2 fish here. I maybe flinched, that did. But the rods are out. We'll keep the recast going every 10, 15 minutes or so at the start of the session, and we'll build some spots up, and hopefully we'll be able to draw a few fish in. Well, we've got a plane just making its way overhead. Bit of cloud cover as well, which hopefully is going to help out to get ourselves a bite or two. It is forecast to be bright and sunny today, so we'll take this whilst it's kicking around. Conditions will probably get a little bit tougher as the morning goes on, but in terms of the equipment I've got for this session, so if you've seen any of my previous videos, I've still got my trusty 1 3/4 pound test curve barbel rods on the go, 4,000 size Baitrunners, freshly spooled up with new 12-pound lines. So my kit for this season is consistent year on year. I have bought my pod as well, because the ground at this time of year can be hard as nails, and yeah, a bit of past experience on this stretch has told me that getting sticks in at this time of the year is a pain in the arse. So the pod is handy to just to help make fishing as easy as possible. Now, the one bit of new kit that I have got for this season is a new landing net pole. So right at the back end of last season, my previous net pole, the threaded boss there literally just dropped straight out, which wasn't good at all. So that went off to the tap man, and I went up one of my local tackle shops, and the guys were really helpful. Went through loads of different landing net poles, and I've got myself the Drennan Specialist twist lock, up to 3 metre there, so it's extendable. This was the best option after trying a load of different solutions out. That's what I've gone for. Got the 30-inch triangular pan sort of net there as well, which fits really well for the Severn. Does the job for the size of the barbel that are in here. So yeah, that's the kit I've got with me, and that's what I'll be using throughout the course of the summer. So I've got the downstream rod in for a refresh, and whilst I'm doing that, let's just have a quick run through what the setup is today. So it's a very simple feeder approach. I've got a bolt and run kit there, 2.5 ounce feeder, which always sits on the bottom consistently like that because of the shape it is. I like using these with ground bait in the summer. I've got a 10-pound fluorocarbon hook length that I would say is about 2.5 foot in length, something like that, down to a size 8 wide gape. Couple of 8mm pellets there, hair rigged. I clip on these PVA mesh bags, so that will melt on the bottom of the river right next to my hook baits there to just aid the attraction. I change the hook baits every second cast just to make sure they're nice and fresh. And I've got some of these PVA bags pre-made up. One of them has split in there, so we'll sort that out in a second. But yeah, if you want to check the details of the terminal tackle out, go in the video description after you've watched it, and everything is itemised in there if you want to buy some similar stuff yourself and copy the approach. Let's get this line back out in the water. We'll keep feeding these bags with every cast, and hopefully that'll set us up well over the course of the session to catch a few barbel. Well, here's a look at my ground bait mix, and look at that for a bit of a stodgy, claggy mess. That's exactly how I like it though, in the faster moving water at this time of the year. I've got hemp running through that as well. I want to make sure that ground bait gets down to the bottom of the river, so that's why I've got it in this consistency. If you've got it dry and you're fishing in the faster moving water, it's just likely to get washed downstream. So I know this will make its way to the bottom, and it'll be giving off lots of scent and attraction, which is exactly what I want to help pull a few fish in. So there's a little bit of foamy stuff coming just down the centre part of the river there, which is showing me where the flow is. And then just panning around to the left here on the downstream side, just where the shadow line is there, that foam is making its way in that sort of direction there. So the downstream rod I've got literally in that area there. It's the fastest bit of moving water that there is on that side of the swim. So that's where I always want to be at this time of the year, in the faster oxygenated water. That's where the barbel are most comfortable. And then the upstream rod is a little bit further out towards the centre part of the river in this area here. That's because the flow is cutting across at an angle, and as it comes round to my left, it's coming further towards the inside. So the right hand rod's a bit further out just to intercept that faster moving water, and then the downstream rod, we're going to feed along that line there. Yeah, and hopefully that's where the barbel are most comfortable, where the natural food line is in the river, and fingers crossed that's where we're going to find them. Knock knock on the downstream door. Yeah, this has got to be a barbel. That was a nice take, that was. Yeah, just as this bit of flow is coming around here on the outside of this bend, I'm feeling there might be a fish or two here. Sometimes the foam can be your friend. Definitely see the line of where it's making its way down the river. Just shows you where the maximum flow is. That's likely to be where the barbel are going to be sat this time of year. Just getting into a fish or two is what everyone wants. And I'm definitely no different there. Landing net is snagged in the brambles. Come on mate, let me have that. Yeah, it is a little splasher, but who cares about that? One barbel in the net. Yes. Well, there we are. Lovely little barbel from the Severn on the downstream rod there. A couple of 8mm pellets. Probably about 3.5 pounds, something like that, but who cares about that? Lovely colours on him. Let's get this dude back in the edge, get that rod back out on the spot and see if we can build up a couple more bites. Right, let's get some of this claggy ground bait mix in the feeder. Got my PVA bag on there. Got the line wrapped around the tip, so we'll sort that out. Perfect. Right back on that faster moving water there. Just pay out a little bit of line. Lovely. Downstream rod back out. Hopefully that next bite's not too far away. Well, that's a nice little reward at the start of the session there. I think that was the third cast. I always make sure all my casts are nice and accurate. They hit the same spot. I'm clipping on little PVA mesh bags with each cast to go alongside the ground bait and the hemp that's going out on the spot to build up an area of feed out on the bottom there that hopefully a few inquisitive fish will come and find. It's definitely worked on the downstream rod. We'll stick to the plan on the upstream rod as well. There hasn't been any taps or signs on that rod just yet, but there's no need to try any different areas just yet. We'll keep the recast going, and hopefully that plan there and the accuracy with the casts will help us to get a couple more bites over the course of the next few hours ahead. Yes. Sounds like there's a match on the far side. All in has just been called. Thankfully there's no pegs anywhere near me on that far margin. It is like a jungle over there, so that is telling me that the move in the downstream direction is definitely not going to be on today then if there's a match. Literally going to be battling lads on the far bank all the way down there today. So this fish is just in the near side edge now, not too far out. A couple of 8mm pellets doing the damage. Into the net. Yeah. Well, here's the second one. Late morning barbel. Only a small fish again, about £4, but at this time of the day I'll take any bites that are presented that come my way. So thank you, mate. I'm going to get both of the rods back out and I'm going to move the upstream rod a bit further towards the downstream to try and bring that one into play now. But let's get this fella back in the edge, give him a good rest for 15 minutes or so whilst we're getting the rods out. Yeah, and hopefully there'll be one or two more out there we can pick up today. So that second barbel's just having a breather down there. And I've very quickly got both rods back out again. And you might just be able to pick out the direction of the lines there. So the upstream rod, I've moved onto this shadow line as well. So that's in about that sort of spot there. Downstream rod, a bit further down there. Fingers crossed there's a few fish held up in that sort of area that we can get both rods into play with. A few canoeists about now. And we know there's a match on around the corner as well now. So if there's a bit of line pressure down there, hopefully it might send a few more fish upstream. You never know. And give this fella down here about another 5 or 10 minutes. Then we'll let him go. We'll keep an eye on these tips. Yeah, this barbel's kicking away in the net nicely. Let's release him now. He's ready to go. The bank is steep here, so we're going to end up in the water if we can. That wasn't particularly graceful at all, but job done. Barbel's gone off with a nice strong kick into the flow. Well, the sun's really up in the sky now. It is a lot brighter than what it was probably about half hour, 40 minutes ago. So we're just going to chase the shadows a bit down this near side margin. Just move the left hand rod over a little bit just to try and keep it out of the direct sunlight. Now is probably the most testing time of the day to try and get a bite, but we'll stick to what we're doing. Keep those casts going in. Small food items, little and often. It's not easy getting bites when it's like this during the daytime, but the approach we've got will give us the best chance. Let's hope we get rewarded with one more yet. Well, this bit of shade is a welcome relief now. It is really hot out there. Tucked under a couple of trees. One of them is creaking away behind me like mad, but yeah, just getting out the sun is what I need. To be honest, I'd be quite surprised if we get a bite in these conditions, but we're doing everything we can outside of fishing maggot or worm. The risk with that though is that you're going to get wiped out by the silvers, and you'll get your hook stripped in no time. Just very small food items, small pellets, hemp, ground bait. It's always in these conditions what I've done well on in the past before, so that's been the approach today, and it's done for a couple of barbels so far, which has been really welcome to get the season started belatedly for me. But I'm going to give it probably about another 45 minutes or so just to see if we can turn up one last barbel before we're going to pack up and get out of here. Just spending a bit of time though has been most welcome on the banks of the Severn. Let's just hope we can get one more yet. Once the feeder reloaded, rod tip and the line is up the tree. Let's get that out of there. Not what we want. All right, let's get this downstream rod refreshed. Just keep these casts going. Small food items, little and often. Just brought that in towards the near side bank just by a couple of yards, just to where I'm just adjusting as the shadow line moves over. Just keep that rod in the shadow rather than in the bright sunlight. Just try and play the percentages that hopefully the barbel have moved into the near side a little bit as the sun's moved over. Of course, a lovely day. Hopefully we can nick another one yet. We've got a bite on the downstream. I'm going to hit that. fish on? Yes, fish on. Get in. That was a subtle bite. Fish is making its way upstream. Let's make sure it doesn't pick up the other line. Yeah, it's gone underneath that. Well, that was interesting, that was. Nothing like the other two takes. So this fish now is well and truly, it's a good 15-20 yards upstream. Right, let's net him quick. Just don't want to allow him to burn out too much energy. And I've missed him. There we go, second time round. The net's folded over itself, but he's sort of in. Oh jeez, I made a mess of that. Right, definitely in now. Well, there we have it. Third barbel of the session. I've just unhooked this one in the edge. I'm going to send him straight back. He's had a good rest for 5 or 10 minutes. Unhooked. As you can see, ready to go. Yes. Try and keep him out of the water for the least amount of time possible when the temperature's up like this. Now I've got to try and get back up the bank without ending in the river. Well, happy days. Sun is out and baking down on the river behind me. Third barbel just gone back. It's great to be getting the bites in these conditions and just getting back into the swing and the feel of barbel fishing on the banks of the Severn today. Just shows that they do feed in any conditions. You just got to get the right swim. Small food items, I'm sure, is the right answer in these conditions. Regular casting. I do like as well just to unhook them in the edge at this time of year when the temperatures are up. If it's 25 degrees plus, if it's a fish of that sort of size, it doesn't need to come on the bank for a photo. Just give it a rest in the edge in the net, unhook it quickly. As you can see, that fish was well and truly ready to go back. It went off, looked like a train. So just get it straight back. It's the best thing for the fish in these type of temperatures. Both rods back out on the spots. Not long left in the session now, but we'll keep fishing right up to the end just to make the most of the session. I'm really enjoying the time back on the bank again. I'm going to grab a pew back in the shade, keep an eye on these tips, and let's see what happens over the rest of the session. Well, that is my time up for today, and it's been an absolute pleasure to be back on the banks of the Severn again. I've really enjoyed the time here, just the peace and solitude of it, and just getting away from all the hassles of work, catching a couple of barbel as well, just an added bonus. Tough conditions really with how bright it's been today, but hopefully there's one or two hints and tips in there about what I do to get bites during conditions like this, during the brighter times of the day. If you can get out at dawn and dusk time, absolute no-brainer, just definitely do that. That's the premium time of the day, and it's when the fish are going to feed the most confidently. But yeah, hopefully there's one or two bits in there you can take away. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like, because that does help me. And if you want to see a little bit more as well, then please feel free to subscribe to the channel. Good luck with your own fishing. Thank you very much for watching, and I will be back with another one again very soon.